All right, we're back. Welcome back to the Caribou Media Outdoors podcast. With me today is Payton Golden. Welcome, Payton.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So, just a little bit of background. I met you, I think it was back in, let's say, when was the shoot from Shooter's Choice? Was it April? March?
Oh, I can't remember when exactly it is, but yeah, that was the first time we met in person.
Right. And then like 3 weeks later, we were in a truck together driving down to TAC.
To TAC, yeah. Pennsylvania. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So just give everybody a little bit of an idea of what your background is.
So I'm a woodworker by trade. I work in the hospitality industry, so we build furniture for hotels, spas, all commercial grade furniture. And archery is pretty much the only other thing I do outside of that. It's
Okay.
It's something that's started in my life, and it just hasn't left. It's been one of the only things that I've been consistent with in my life.
Okay.
Outside of standard work, but yeah, right now that's about the only two things that I do.
Nice. And you had a hell of a year last year. You were the 2024 Canadian 3D National Champion.
Yep.
And you were also the Ontario 3D Champion. So you basically dominated the whole competition for 3D in Canada. Is that right?
Yeah. So last year was pretty exciting for me. It was my second year competing at provincials. In 2013 was my first time competing, and I came away with second place. And then last year came away with first place. And then a few months later went to nationals and then took first place at nationals as well.
Awesome. That's amazing. And when did you start archery? Like, when did you first pick up a bow?
2021 was the first year.
Okay.
So
what kind of got you into it?
So it's actually kind of a long story, but when I first got my hunting license in 2018, it had been something that I'd wanted to do for years. And the more I got into podcasts like Joe Rogan, I had found out about like John Dudley and Cam Haines and Remy Warren and all these other guys. I wanted to get more into, or I had an interest in getting into archery. So after I got my hunting license, the next progressible step for me was to find a community. And because no one in my direct family or any of my good friends or close friends were hunters, I kind of had to look outside of that personal circle.
Right.
So I started doing research as far as gun clubs and hunt camps and hunt clubs. And then I found a club literally just outside of where I live. And at that time that I had applied for the club, it's a pretty lengthy process because it is including firearms.
Mm-hmm.
They have background checks. They require you to do certain things. I had started that process and then COVID hit. So even though I had got all my registration done, all my volunteering done, they couldn't host any in-person meetings, which meant I couldn't get voted in.
Okay.
So for almost 2 years, I was kind of sitting in limbo.
Oh.
And then as soon as I got accepted in, I now had an opportunity to explore archery. And the reason why I went this route is because I knew it was something I was going to want to do consistently. And my end goal was to go hunting. And because I live in an apartment, I'm unable to sort of practice whenever I want. So I wanted a place where I could shoot regularly and practice. So there was that big gap between getting my hunting license and getting into archery.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got into the gun club, then I met the archers in the community, and then I got involved more in the club and helping out with the archery department. And then I got into competitive archery. So it's been this long progression to get to archery, but once I got there, it kind of just, it evolved, and it took its own path, like outside of hunting.
Fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Sounds like,
Yeah.
right? You said you say 2021 you picked up a first bow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then you had to wait 2 years before you could start practicing with it because you're where you lived?
Yeah.
So you'd only been shooting for like a year or two before?
No, so like I bought the bow. I had started the application process for the gun club.
Yeah.
And then once I got voted into the club, like after COVID,
Yeah.
or at least when they could host in-person meetings,
Okay.
then I got a bow. So I got a bow
Okay.
into 2021 when I got accepted into the gun club.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. Would you remember what your first bow was?
Yeah, it's a PSE Embark.
Nice.
So when I realized I was going to actually get a bow, I started doing a bunch of research, and obviously a big predominant factor from that was finding John Dudley and all his videos. So
knock.
Yep. Exactly. So I'm obsessed with podcasts, and diving down the hole of his Knock On podcast and all his YouTube videos, is I was following him pretty religiously leading up to buying a bow.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, he had just transitioned from Hoyt to PSE.
Gotcha.
And I believe he was in the end of his first year there. So technically the second hunting season release. So he had just released the PSE Embark.
Okay.
And I couldn't find it at the local shop, so I drove out of town, probably an hour and a half, to a local shop that I knew had it in stock. And then I just bought it off the shelf without even trying it. It was just, I just knew that's the bow that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then taking a few lessons. I think I took 2 lessons to get used to it, and then pretty much after that I was on my own.
Was that from somebody at the club?
So I took my first 2 lessons at Shooter's Choice.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bought the bow outside of Shooters, and then I came into Shooters to do lessons with their local instructor.
Okay. And that's in Waterloo, Ontario, for those who don't know. Okay. So when did you want to start going from shooting at the club to entering tournaments? Like, how did it? Was it a quick turnaround for you?
It was about a year into archery. At this point, I was just practicing by myself. Like I'd go out, maybe once a week, twice a week. If I had more free time, I'd go out more. But I was just by myself, and I wasn't really even going in the 3D like archery trail. I was just sitting at the field and just shooting like blank face paper targets.
Okay.
At different distances. And at this point, the archery director for the club had stepped down. So at this meeting, no one volunteered to take their place. Oof. So, I'm a year. Yeah, exactly. I'm a year into archery, but I've been at this club volunteering and helping out for almost 3 years at this point.
Okay.
And this year of doing archery, I had really fallen in love with it, even though I didn't have any interest outside of hunting. It was just, that's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to hunt with it, and I knew to hunt, I needed to be really proficient at it. So I like to practice a lot. And because this member was stepping down and no one was stepping up, like I was honestly afraid that no one was going to step up and the archery department would kind of go away. So I was thinking about it in the meeting of putting my hand up, but I wasn't sure. And then I slept on it. And the next day I emailed the board and I asked them if no one had volunteered, that I'd be willing to put my name in the hat for the position. And they basically just emailed me saying, yeah, like no one's volunteered, so like it's all yours. So at that point, I was now in charge of running this whole archery department.
Wow.
And like a year
like
into picking up a bow. Yeah.
That's incredible. It's amazing that the club let you do that. Like they didn't care that you were new to it. Well, they just wanted someone in the seat, I guess.
Yeah, it worked in my favor because during those 2 years that I was in limbo, you know, I had my application done, but I wasn't voted in. And outside of that, I was still choosing to come to events to volunteer.
Okay.
So I had no obligation of volunteering or helping out anymore. I had already completed all my requirements, but I was still choosing to be involved in that community. So everyone at the board knew me. So it wasn't just like some, you know, random person that they didn't know or a member that they had never, you know, had an interaction with. And our club is primarily a gun club. So the board itself, you know, some people may have crossbows and, you know, go hunting with those, but no one is really an archer. So for someone that they knew, you know, used the club for archery, they were more than willing to kind of hand it over and let them, you know, take over for that position.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so how it got into, where was I going with archery, like outside of hunting with that was, you know, I got put into this position now where I'm now running this department. And I honestly had no idea what to do. You know, I'd been at the club and I had experienced how the club was set up, but I wanted to have events. You know, I knew that they had events prior to COVID, so I was curious about doing that. 3D was this whole new thing for me. I'd never done it before outside of, you know, the few crappy targets that they put out all year round in the, you know, in the field for people to beat up.
Right.
So at that point, I just started doing research. I just started looking into, you know, are there other archery clubs? Where are competitions? Like, what are the regulations? And I went to the first event, which was in Waterloo County, Bowman.
Okay.
It was like a Saturday event, just a fun shoot. And it's actually the first day I met CJ.
Oh, no way.
Okay. Yeah, CJ was there. And yeah, I, you know, it was really intimidating. You know, you pull up in the parking lot, everyone's out there talking to each other. There's a whole lineup of cars.
Yeah.
You know, how does registration work? I have no idea. Like, you know, everyone knows what they're, you know, everyone knows each other. I'm the odd man out, you know.
That was me this year.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I had you and CJ and Gary from the Full Draw podcast to help me along. But yeah, I know.
So yeah, I did that first event, and you know, I basically just told the guys running it, like, I've never done this before, and they grabbed 2 people, put me in a group with them. You know, super friendly community, and at that point, it just kind of became, you know, this like real love of mine of going to all these events. And, you know, I went in with the mindset of learning how things are ran and how to set up, you know, archery trails and how to run events. And then by diving in with that mindset, you know, I wanted to explore more events and more clubs. And then once I got into that, then I started meeting more and more people. And then you see the same people at all these events.
Right.
And then you get involved in that community and you start making friends. And then, you know, these people are talking about these tournaments that you have to go to. You got to experience these ones. And it just kind of built on top of each other, you know, and it just stacked, you know, all this experience over and over again. And, I didn't know at the time, but really like, I'm starting at a small events, but I'm going to these bigger events and I'm getting more and more experience. And then I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just absolutely took over.
Mm-hmm. And you're shooting the Bowtech. What's your target bow now?
Yeah. So last year, I switched over from a more hunting style to a more target style, and I shoot the Bowtech Reckoning.
The Reckoning, right?
The 39-inch.
And what drew you to that one? Did you go through a series of trying a bunch of different target bows, or what was it? What about Bowtech?
So what made me curious about Bowtech is being so novice at tuning at the time. Was Bowtech, really had everything that you needed to dabble into tuning without having to have like a bow press or having to take your equipment to the shop. And that was the biggest draw for me was just the ability to, tune the cams, get it shooting through paper straight. And if you need to make adjustments, you can literally do it in the field.
And working on your own, being able to make your own adjustments.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super handy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about like releases? Did you land on, were you more of a hinge person? Did you start off with a wrist strap like 90% of everybody that shoots, or what was your?
So the first one, and I still have it, was the Scott Little Goose.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Little Goose 2. I can't remember if it's a Little Goose 1 or 2. I started with that, and that got me through pretty much 2 years of competitions, and then started developing some bad habits from it. And at that point, I just started experimenting and kind of trying other things. So I have every style of release.
Mm-hmm.
I have index, I have hybrids, I have hinges, I have thumbs now. So it's kind of what, at this point, it's, what do I feel most confident with?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I feel like can I utilize in my benefit at the time?
Do you ever go between a couple different ones during the same tournament, or do you tend to stick with one for, like, some people have a release pouch and they'll just throw a bunch of shit in there and it'll be like, okay, this is the one I'm pulling out. I'm going to use this one.
Mm-hmm. I have before.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I find that to be a bit of a crutch for me, because if I'm choosing to switch releases, it's usually because I lack confidence in some way. The mental mindset of saying this isn't working for me. It can be the release in some instances, but a lot of the time when people make equipment adjustments in the field, it's usually a crutch because that's the excuse that they've made up in their mind.
Right. Blame it on the equipment.
Yeah. Oh, my arrow didn't hit where I was aiming. My sight's off.
Right.
In reality, you just made a bad shot.
Anxiety took a hold of you.
Yeah. So I've always found that when I'm switching between stuff, I'm not in a good mindset, especially in a competition setting. So especially leading up to big tournaments and stuff, I figure all that out before the tournament itself.
Mm-hmm.
Come the tournament, I've put the work in and I'm comfortable with what I'm using and I have confidence in what I'm using. So I stick with it through the good and the bad times during that tournament. I think there is a time and a place to switch releases, especially from like a hinge to maybe a thumb. Like in practice, if you're getting a little punchy, switching to a hinge can help you. It can flip that switch in your mind to help you focus more on making a clean break. And a lot of people, that's what they like to do. They primarily go with a thumb, but when things are getting a little punchy and a little anxiety, they may switch to a hinge. And then when they calm down, they'll switch back to a thumb.
Right.
I just always have had the mindset of, you know, working that out in practice. So then come the tournament, you know, you're in the right mindset to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, confidence is key in your equipment. And if you're lacking it before you even start at your first target, then you're already on a downward slope.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are you using now then for a release? Are you still using the Goose or are you using something else?
No, so I've after the Goose, you know, I got into a lot of target panic at my first provincials.
Okay.
And the guy who I was shooting with had a Scott Hex, and a Hex is kind of a hybrid between a hinge and an index style.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically, the biggest difference is that the Hex mechanism that releases on your D loop is the exact same on a hinge, but how it's made, there's a tether from the release to your wrist, and you don't have to pull back with the release. You can pull back with your wrist. So there was a nice common ground for that release in the change. It wasn't that drastic as going from like a wrist strap to a handheld. So I was using that, and that really helped with target panic.
Okay.
And then I upgraded from that to the Scott Verge. And that's what I used all last year was the Verge.
And is that a button or a hinge or a hybrid?
No, so again, that's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, they've kind of updated their hybrid series. So it's still a mechanism of a hinge, but it's more in the style of an index.
Okay.
So the trigger system, it has a trigger like an index, but the mechanism is like a hinge.
Okay. Now how do you deal with, tell me about what your mindset's like when I started, I was shooting out the back. I live on a farm. I've got all the space in the world to shoot out to any distance I want. And whatever I'm doing it by myself. And then you go to these tournaments and now you're paired in a group, and sometimes you can get paired with some of your friends, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
So explain to people what it's like, what it was like for you when you started going to these tournaments, shooting with strangers, everybody's watching. And then how did you progress through that into like a shoot off situation? Because that's got to amp things up tenfold, I would think.
Yeah. So I think when I was first in it, like looking back at the first, I'd say probably the first 10 local tournaments I went to, I was still in the mindset of just taking in all the information I possibly could because I was so new. You know, I am a little bit more of a reserved person. So getting into these, you know, these local club shoots, like I didn't know anyone at the time. So, you know, everything was, you know, it was intimidating. But once you start shooting and once you get to know people, like everyone in the community is so friendly that it only takes, you know, 20 minutes with a group. And for the most part, like you're in a pretty chill environment.
Yeah.
You know, people's personalities are starting to come out, whether they're goofy people, whether they're quiet and they kind of crack jokes every now and then, or, you know, we all know those people that just, you know, upset and make excuses after every shot. Like there's always a group a group dynamic.
For the most part, everybody's happy to be there, at least at the beginning. At the beginning.
Yeah. And like local club shoots, no one's really taking it too seriously. Like if you make a bad shot, you miss a target, it's like, oh crap, you know, that sucks. But like you move on, and and the conversation keeps going.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I shot my first ASA in Muskoka where that dynamic changes so much from, now you've got your score, and at the end, at the end of the day, when you're walking off and you see the leaderboards and you see that you're in the top 5, and now you have to go to a shoot down in front
Mhm.
of everyone that's there.
Mm-hmm.
I had never experienced anything like that. And, I made a bunch of shoot offs last year, and it's still something I'm getting used to.
Yeah.
It's just such a total different environment mentally when you're in there. And it's something I still struggle with, and I'm still trying to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, though, the biggest thing I try to tell myself is that if there's one thing you're going to think about, it's the basics.
Yeah.
Because in those high stress situations, the things that you do every single time are usually the things that you're going to either overthink or forget about or miss.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally could be something as simple as breathing.
Yeah, and it's I mean, for the most part, I think I was at three of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to tech, or whatever. I did 3 and tech. For the most part, the crowd is behind you, obviously. It's still nerve-wracking, I can assume, but what you would have to, and again, I've never been on the line for one of these, but I would think that you have to immediately get that out of your mind, that there's people there with you, and you just have to play through and speak through your mind to yourself what you're doing, because you could go and skip a step so easily because you're thinking about the guy behind you that's got his binoculars out, who's looking at your target before you shoot, and it's like, did I check my sight? I don't know, right? So it's kind of like you almost have to verbally tell yourself, go through your checklist, right?
Yeah. And that's where the mindset of archery is, it's so important, and it really is 90% of archery.
Yeah.
When you step up into a shoot down and, all these things that are running in your head, like, like people are watching me. I need to make a good shot. Oh, there's a timer now.
That's right. I forgot
You
about
notice, you notice your hand shaking a little bit. You're like, stop shaking. All that mental space that is being taken up by those words, you need to replace them with your fundamentals, right?
that.
Are my feet in the right position?
Mm-hmm.
Did I set my sight? When I draw back, do I have the correct anchor? Can I feel the string on my nose? Is the pin on the target? Am I activating my release in a controlled manner? And it sounds so much easier than it is, but that mental anxiety just is it's like a plague. It just takes over everything. And if you go to enough events, like, you'll see people forget to knock an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see them forget to set their sight. You'll see them make really, really bad shots. And I've been there. I made a horrible shot last year in a shoot down that cost me first place. And, it's having that mindset of, when I'm in that situation, I need to dumb things down, and I need to start thinking about the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about that, then nothing else is going to take that place as far as anxiety or any other thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something else. It's one thing you're shooting by yourself in your backyard, and then you go to these events, and it can really get you rattled if you're not too careful.
Yeah.
What kind of arrows were you shooting for the tournaments, and are you still using those for this coming season, or are you going to make a change?
Yeah. So last year I was shooting the Black Eagle PS 23s.
Mm-hmm.
I have them because I have them all set up and fine-tuned from last year. I probably won't change.
Mhm.
You know, if I am going to change because of the weight system, the screw-in weight system into the heads, if anything, it'll be maybe experimenting with that.
Okay.
I was thinking about going with some PS27s now
Yeah.
that I'm getting more into indoor. And I might do that, but I think the PS23s for 3D especially are a good medium in between just overall size and just a good overall competition arrow.
And is there, I don't know if I read this or not. Are there some tournaments that only allow the 23s as a maximum size where you can't go to the 27s? You know? I can't.
I believe so, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's any of the 3D events.
No? Okay. Maybe.
I think
Okay.
it's some it might be some like worlds or
Oh,
like
okay.
field events.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. And then you took your embark out this season and you shot a deer with it. Is that right?
Yeah, this year I shot my first buck with a bow. I've taken other bucks, but they've all been with rifles.
Okay.
And then this year was the first buck that I shot, and I think it was a good send off for the embark because I'm going to be upgrading from the embark after this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we were geeking out about all the bows that have come out. Prime's coming out tomorrow. What are you thinking? I think your hat might give it away, but what are you thinking for a hunting bow?
Well, I've actually put an order in. So
oh, hey, all right.
Yeah. So I put an order in for the 2025 Bowtech Proven 34. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
that's a nice one. That's awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, I got to try it out. Well, before I put the order in, but it's a great bow. They really killed it this year. It's the same platform as the SS34. It's pretty much an updated SS34. And the SS series was one of their top sellers.
Right.
So if you're a fan of Bowtech, then that bow, and the Bowtech fan base has been really pleased with that series, and I think they're very happy this year with that new bow.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And you had some news there. You're going to be shooting for Bowtech this year?
Yeah. So 2025 is my first year shooting with any contracts.
Amazing.
And the biggest is Bowtech.
That's
so
incredible.
I'm also shooting for Hamsky, Flex Fletch, and Shrewd.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations, man. That's wicked.
Just want to take a quick break to talk to you about a couple of things that I've been using that I think might benefit you. One is this Numa Outdoors gear. This is in their Kaza OV pattern, which is great whitetail pattern when you're up in a tree in the fall and late season. They also have a Kaza pattern which has more green in it, which is good for spring through to the fall. Numa has given me a code to give to you of Caribou Media 20, which will save you 20% at checkout. Another product here that I've been using for years now is the Bulldog targets. This is a Canadian made target. They're made in Manitoba. They have a lifetime warranty. I've used that warranty twice now on a couple of my larger targets that are outside. It's very simple, very easy. These targets are 2-finger removal every single time, which is incredible. Field point only target. Bulldog's been gracious enough to give me a 20% discount code to give to you at checkout. Use code BD20-Caribou-Media. That'll save you 20% on these awesome targets. Now back to the show.
So cool. Awesome. What color combination you go with for your Proven 34?
So I got the new Sandstone.
Okay.
And then they have a newer version of the Bottomlands camo. It has like more brown in it. It's not the traditional it is by Mossy Oak, but it's not the like the swamp one, the one that kind of looks like tree bark.
Yep.
It's more of like an old school pattern camo, but it has a little bit more brown in it. Anyways, I got that on the limbs. So camo limbs, sandstone riser, and then I also got the matching color for the tight spot quiver for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love those things, man.
Yeah, they're great.
I've had two now. I had one, and then I went to a different one this year, and then halfway through switched back.
Yeah.
It's like they're so tight, and yeah, you have no concerns that any of your arrows are gonna fall out or anything like that. They're pretty wicked.
Yeah.
Was there any professional archers that you were looking up to, or maybe modeling yourself, or not necessarily yourself, but your technique or your style after?
Getting into archery, because I didn't know a lot of the tournament side, was really heavily based on John Dudley. So after I had taken my first 2 lessons at the archery shop, I was basically just on my own. And whenever I was curious about something, or had free time and wanted to learn more, was always just John Dudley, all knock on. So I've really looked up to him a lot. And then getting into tournaments, like Chris Perkins really stands out because, he's one of the only Canadian guys on the American circuit that's making a name for himself, and is also just primarily doing archery as a career.
Right.
Outside of that, like, there's a lot, I'm still learning of people. The competitive side of 3D has been going on for quite a few decades now, that, you have this dynamic of each, big ASA tournament, there's some new person that I'm learning about winning who's in the shoot downs, but then you also have guys that have been there for like 20 plus years. So it's this kind of, trading off of generations in the ASA circuit, where, you see established names battling it out in shoot-offs with people that, like I said, I've never heard of, and that are, only a few years into their archery career.
I'll never forget watching the Lancaster Classic when we were watching Bodie Turner in that shoot down. He was just like rock solid. Just
he's unreal to watch.
Unreal. I was like on the edge of the couch watching it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, he hit like 1, 2, 3, hits his foot on the 12, hits the 12. Well, just no problem, right? Like, just cool, like, just got it's all his process. I mean, his dad. I mean, Joel Turner's incredible with his shot IQ, and it's helping a lot of people, and he's just like a force to be reckoned with. Like, it's just his whole sequence and the way he can throw arrows downrange is just amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like last year, I don't know if it's last year that you're referring to, where they had the battle with the 12s. That Lancaster has to be, in my opinion, it's one of the most exciting events for indoor target archery right now. All other indoor target archery, as much as I admire it and I enjoy that sport itself, just watching people hit center target for 30 arrows in a row, it's incredible that they do it, but in a lot And it's kind of boring.
Oh, look, another 11.
It's bullseye, 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 bullseye. And having that shoot up tournament style in Lancaster, where fourth and fifth battle it out, and fifth can win and then go on to battle out with third, and then can beat them and go up to second, and they can literally work their way up and go head to head against the first place guy. It's just so entertaining.
That angers a lot of people, though, I think, because, not me. I agree with you. I think it's cool, but I've heard other people say, "Oh, it's not fair," because if you're in that place, you should be out. It should be between, the top two people who got there. But I think it's pretty entertaining to watch when you're. I can only imagine being there. That'd be something. Is that the only one where they allow the 12s?
Yes.
Like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a few unique features. So the first is they have like a shoot off, and then on top of that, the shoot off is in a bottom up sort of 1-to-1 battle. Like I was explaining. So 5 will go against 4, and then you kind of move up into first place. And then on top of that, their targets are in a vertical stack instead of like a 3 spot, which is a triangle, or a 5 spot, which is like a dice. And then on top of that, they have the 12s that are introduced into the shoot downs only,
which are down from the center in the 8 ring. So if you miss, you're getting an 8. And if you get an 8 in a tournament like that,
you're
going home.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yeah. They've done a really great job at promoting indoor archery. They've really modeled their Lancaster Classic after the success that ASA has had in the past decade. If you think about it, it's really similar to like a 3D shoot down, but in a sort of indoor format, where instead of, you have your standard rings, but in a shoot down for ASA, you have the 14 that's available.
Right.
So in Lancaster, you have the standard rings, but then you also have like the bonus option of shooting that 12, which in both those tournaments is a high risk, high reward sort of scoring situation in a high stakes position that these athletes are in.
Right. So for people that don't understand that, there's the ASA and IBO tournaments, right? IBO is your only hitting the center.
Yep.
And that's worth 10.
Right? Yes. No, and 11. Sorry.
11.
Yeah.
And then ASA is the 10 is in the middle, or you can opt to shoot the 12s. There's 2 12s, and then there's a 14.
Yeah.
Right.
But the 14 is only available in if you make it to the shoot downs.
In the shoot, right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me now. Yeah, okay. So for people who haven't been down to TAC, because there's some people that'll probably be listening that might want to go or haven't gone, what was your experience like? What did you think of it as someone going down for the first time?
I loved it. I mean,
it's amazing.
We were there together, but I just remember,
so good.
We parked a little far away, so we had to walk into the the resort and the vendor village, but just having that experience of walking through the parking lot and seeing the ski hill and seeing like 200 targets and that only being the practice range was just so cool to see.
What am I looking at? Oh my God, we're not even there yet.
And we were all just so hyped up to go shoot.
Well, the first day, like we got there and it was like the Thursday, and it was it was like right around the evening. And I remember them saying, if you get there Thursday, go register, because Friday will be a zoo. So we weren't shooting Thursday, but we walked around the vendor village. And I remember within the first like 10 minutes, I looked at CJ and Gary and you, and I'm like, we're coming back here every year. And we haven't even gone to shoot anything yet. Like the amount of stuff and products and companies that show up, and you literally round a corner and there's John Dudley standing there talking to somebody. And you're like, I've only seen him on YouTube or on TV. And it's like, you can just go wait and go talk to him. Like, it's just like, where am I? What is this place? This is amazing. So
yeah, we got there, and I think we were all just in a little bit of awe of just how, we knew that a lot of people had registered, but I don't think we understood just the scale of, the whole event. And getting there and seeing all the targets on the practice range and walking through the vendor village, and like you said, seeing people like John Dudley, you'd be walking through the crowd and you'd be like, hey, I've seen that guy before, and it's so and so on YouTube, or
Oh yeah,
so and
it
so
was
from
like
Instagram.
it's like Sesame Street. You
Yeah,
see all your friends show up at
yeah,
various times of the show. It's like, oh, look, there's the guys from Extreme Outfitters. I
yeah.
watch them all the time. Oh, there's John Mulligan,
Mhm.
Johnny Utah. Oh,
Yep.
I've seen him before. Oh, look over there. There's so and so, and it's like, oh, the dialed guys are over there. I can go look at that site. I've never been able to put my hands on one. Like it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then, having that experience and just how enjoyable being part of that community is,
oh yeah,
of knowing that like we're all on the same page. We all love archery. We all love hunting. We're all here to just have fun. Just set such a good vibe, for that weekend that we were there.
mm-hmm.
And that was the mindset of when we got there. That wasn't even the mindset of like shooting the course or anything.
Oh yeah, no,
Like we were already 110% in of this is something that we're going to try to do as much as we possibly can.
yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know, they are revamping their registration. It was a bit of a frustrating time to register, as you had to do each person in your group separately. And when you were trying to choose the shooting time, sometimes that time that you picked would be sold out by the time you got to like the second or third person in your group. So they're revamping that for this year, from what I'm hearing, which will be nice. But you can also just walk in, pay your money, and walk on in the afternoon to any course that you want.
Yeah.
Was it any time after 1 o'clock? I think it was, or 1 o'clock onward.
I believe so. Yeah.
You can just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they set a premium on the morning knock times,
Right.
which I think is like 7 to like 9. And then anything from 9 to 1 is like kind of your standard knock time that you're not paying a premium for. And then outside of that, it's you just pay your fee and you can walk on.
Yeah. It would be nice to try maybe do one morning, or I don't know, 1 or 2 mornings, and then have the rest of the day to do your thing.
Yeah.
Because we found a couple days, it does take a while. Some people don't realize you're walking pretty far to get your arrows, because some of the shots are pretty far. So it can take like, like 4 hours, 4.5 hours to finish.
Yeah, we probably averaged around 4.5 hours.
Yeah, and they'd shut the vendor village down around 5-ish, I think.
Yeah.
5:30. So you'd be coming down the chairlift and people would be like packing up and shutting things down. So it might be nice to try and do a morning one here or there, but just the selection of stuff. But it was also shocking. I mean, it's strange as someone who's coming, even like we're coming from Canada, we're coming from way away. I mean, it was only 6.5 hours for us to get there, but people are coming to this event with money because they want to buy stuff. And the amount of places that had a booth and didn't bring product, like, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was probably the only disappointing thing I could say about the whole event, because, for me, it was like Origin. I love their products, and they had a whole booth of textiles and garments that you could actually touch and feel, but none of them were for sale.
Yeah.
So for us Canadians having to go back across the border and only being limited to purchasing it online, that kind of sucked for us, especially for brands that we wanted to support and buy products from.
Yeah, Loopold was the same. They had all their binoculars out, but you couldn't buy anything.
No, even their sunglasses.
CJ tried to buy the sunglasses off the dude that was working the booth, and he's like, no, like, I got money.
Yeah.
But I thought one thing that was cool was Sauer was actually letting you borrow their binoculars to go try out. So
Mhm.
they have those image stabilization binoculars, which are phenomenal.
Yeah.
You can't. They're so hard to describe how wicked they are without you actually looking through them yourself.
Yeah.
But you're literally looking through the binoculars and you hit a button and the entire image stops moving.
Yeah.
And it's literally like you can just scan. It's unreal.
It almost feels like cheating. Like it feels like you've got some sort of like Navy SEAL technology,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And they were letting people take them. Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, here, go ahead.
Yeah.
CJ took them out. You just
I think they opened up a brand new box for him.
They did.
Yeah.
So you're getting like both sides of the field there. Like I would think as a company, if I was, that's a missed opportunity if you don't bring stuff to sell, because people that are coming, we're coming with money because we want to buy stuff because we don't get that a lot of that stuff up here.
Yeah.
And you know, we want to get a chance to do it. But there was for the most part, a lot of people did bring stuff to sell, which was good to see.
Yep. No, it was nice to see Lancaster was there. They had a whole trailer. Of basically anything archery related that you wanted, they had. It
was basically a store on wheels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I don't know if they had bows.
No,
do you remember if they had bows?
They just had everything that goes with it.
But if you came with a brand new bow, you could get it completely set up with everything you need and dressed with shoes to hat, everything, and you could walk out there and go hunting if you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Last Chance Archery brought a couple of presses, and it was like, they're here. If you want to use them, go ahead. Yeah. Like, it was awesome. And then, you know, Hoyt was there. They had their engineer one of their engineers was there. Like, I remember going over there and we shot the Alpha X for last year, and phenomenal bow. And they're like, yeah, come on here. Like, oh, here, shoot the RX8 too. Like, while you're at it, like, we'll set it up. They had a guy set it all up. Here, you want a hat? Here, have a hat. Like, just whatever. Like, you know, it was, oh, do you want to talk to the guy that built the thing? He's right there, like 3 steps away from you. Like, what is this? Am I in a dream right now? Like, this is amazing. Like, just and that was just the vendor village, like, let alone going on, you know, doing the courses. Like, it would be cool. I don't know what you're thinking for this year, but I'd love to try the ones we didn't do. Like, maybe still do the knock-on one, but do like the Rocky Mountain elk one, or the Sitka course, or the Prime course, right?
Or Ultra View,
and just kind of get a different experience, because they are all different. Like the Jack Lynx one was all uphill for the first half.
Yeah.
And then one at ground level, and then all downhill on the way back.
Yeah.
And we're talking like 75 yards uphill.
Yeah.
Right?
Up a ski hill.
So you're like gassed, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just amazing. Is there anything that you would want to do differently, or that you might want to do that we didn't get a chance to this time around?
I think doing a morning course would be nice.
Yeah.
Because you have that walk-on ability, you know, you can go in the morning for your registered knock time, get the course done while it's like relatively cool outside still.
Yeah.
And then you can come back, have lunch. And if the group is still up for it, or if you want to go solo, like, you have the time to go back to vendor village and to walk on a course if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no obligation to even shoot the whole course either. Like, if you just want to,
like, people were jumping us at times. Like, we were filming it. We were trying to be quick about it. Like, we weren't setting up tripods or anything. We were literally handing the camera off to each other. But there were some people like, we're just going to play through. Is that cool? Like, yeah, go ahead. Like,
yeah.
You know,
so I think that, and then I made the poor decision of pushing off all the challenges and stuff to the last day.
Yeah.
And we didn't know this, but we came down at the same time we had always been throughout the whole event, around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But since it was the last day, it was the Sunday, when we came down at 4:30, the entire vendor village was just gone.
It was insane. It was like,
Everything
what just happened?
yeah.
Where did
So
where did they go?
I had pushed the truck shoot and all the other stuff to the last day.
Mhm.
And then because we got off at 4:30 and they had closed shop, I didn't get an opportunity to shoot anything. So I'd recommend to anyone, if you want to shoot for any of the challenge stuff, you know, don't do it on the last day.
No, I think I'm going to be doing a lot more of that. I did do the truck one. I think I'll be doing more for the truck one. It
Yeah.
does take a little bit to kind of settle yourself in. Like, this is a 110-yard shot, 110 or 111-yard shot
Mhm.
on a 45-degree angle straight uphill to a caribou, and you have to hit right in the center, dead nuts in the
Yeah.
middle of the 12 ring. So it's you know, I think I had one that was really, one or two that were really close.
Yeah, I
But
think you had one in the, like, you had one or two within like 1 to 2 inches of
yeah,
the ring itself.
of the ring itself. So it was
Yeah.
close, but there was a whole bunch of other stuff that, like, I think there was Ultra Arrows was given away, a set of arrows if you shot. I think Kifaru had a thing there. Loopholed, if you shot a certain thing, you could get entered into win a pair of binoculars or a rangefinder. Like, there was all kinds of stuff that you just didn't get to, or you didn't, but
Mhm.
it's all a learning thing, right? You just gotta
Yeah.
figure it out for next year. So
Yeah.
there's going to be Canadian dates. There is not going to, sadly, there's not going to be an Ontario date. But so I'm going to guess it's probably going to be Alberta, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
But again, it's traveling down to Pennsylvania. I don't think was that bad of a trip at all.
No, not at all.
And I liked where we stayed too. We were literally 5 minutes from in like a condo townhouse that was on the resort itself. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. So if you are thinking about going, be mindful of the registration. I would say probably have a couple of people in your group ready to jump on to kind of help with that process. I'm definitely going to be more available this year to do that, to help out so that we don't have any issues. Hopefully it's a little better this time and it's a little easier. Like, do something like when you go buy concert tickets, right? Where they'll pull you into another window. You got 9 minutes to fill out this form and you lose them, right? That would be a lot better than racing to try and type.
A free for
I got to
all.
get this right. It's a free for all. So that'll be good. Did you have a favorite target that stuck with you from that at all? Do you remember?
The knock-on course was really memorable because every single target was very challenging. Even though they weren't all far, they were all technical. Like, you had trees in the way, you had fallen logs that they were tucked over. There was, I think it was the knock-on course, the boar that I shot at 102 yards.
Yes. Yeah. That was sick.
Yeah. But the knock-on course was also in such a unique location at the resort, because we took a chairlift up to the top of the mountain, and there was just like a lake.
That was weird, eh?
Like on the top of the mountain.
What?
And then we don't know where to go, and we kind of make our way, around this like lake, man-made lake, and then we get a shuttle, and then we go even further, like up the mountain or across the mountain, and then we get dropped off and we're on an airfield. It was we were just like, what the heck is going on here?
We're walking to target number 1. I'm like, guys, we're on a landing strip.
Yeah.
Planes land here. This is crazy. And it's like, oh, here's target number 1. Where's the it's way over there. 93-yard shot for the first shot at the Green Sasquatch thing. I'm like, oh, it's game on. Like, here we go, right? This is gonna be crazy. Oh, and then
yeah,
like
that was a pretty memorable course in general.
I just like you said, it changed. Like we're walking along this airstrip. We're shooting the 93-yard thing. We're shooting turkeys. We're shooting, deer here and there. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to shoot downhill at a panther. And then, now we're going into a trail into the woods. And we're going to shoot a couple things in there. Then we're circling around. We're going up a hill and we're coming back on the landing strip. And then we go down. And then we're taking that 102-yard shot at the boar.
Mm-hmm.
And then we walked around a corner then, and we're on the edge of a cliff, and there's a guy from TAC sitting on this rock face holding a stick, and he's just like, what are you doing there? And he's like, I'm just here to make sure you don't fall.
It's down there.
What?
Yeah.
He's like, it's down there. I'm like, what? Holy cow. You're literally like,
yeah.
The angle for that was insane. It was only a 20-yard shot, but we literally had to hinge yourself right at your waist down. And then we're down in the woods, and we spent rest of the time in some thick trees. It was amazing. It was so well done.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting to go to a couple different ones, and see how does that course, like you go to Pennsylvania and then maybe you go to another one, you're like, okay, now how are they setting up that course? Because they got to work with whatever environment they have, right? So I'm sure they're all different everywhere you go, but it was
and
awesome.
It would be I'd be curious to see if they would do anything different next year. Like if maybe each course they switch up whose course it is. Like maybe UltraView gets that section of the course next year,
right?
And Knock On goes somewhere else. I'd hope that it wouldn't be just the exact same trails, exact same target placement every year.
I doubt it. They probably change it up. Yeah. But hat goes off to the people working there. They set up and broke down those courses lickety split. Like it was incredible watching them work so quickly.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So looking forward to going back next year for sure. 100%.
Yep.
It's going to be wicked. Well, we're getting to about an hour now. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
So primarily Instagram, Payton_Golden. I'll be ramping up this coming year. So possibly some YouTube content coming out.
Oh, nice.
And when that comes out, I'll let everyone know what it is, where to subscribe. But right now, just mainly posting a lot of some personal stuff, but also sharing some of my experiences in the tournament, circuits and just fun archery content on Instagram.
Awesome. Oh, I meant to ask you, are you an instructor now? Are you teaching?
Yeah. So I am a certified instructor. I coach beginner only.
Okay.
So if anyone is interested in getting into archery or has a bow, hasn't shot in a while, and is just looking for beginner fundamentals, I can help with anything from technique to helping people getting into tournaments or practicing for hunting.
Awesome.
And you can reach out to me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way. Again, it's Payton_Golden.
Wicked. Awesome. I'm excited. Congratulations on your awesome year.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to be one to be, you're going to be a challenge to catch up to this year. I got bit by that bug thanks to you guys dragging me along, you and CJ and Gary. So I'm thankful for that. And I find that it's a great way to help hone your skills for hunting season, right? Like it helps you shoot. Sure. There's one thing to shoot all year in your backyard. It's another thing when you're getting into the woods shooting actual animals in the environment that you're going to be in. It's just such a nice way to hone your skills.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's a lot of skills that are transferable from 3D archery to hunting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.